I can tell you that it's going to be in the 80s today. It was warm and windy yesterday here in town, which means that well, we can enjoy the weather on the one hand, but we have to be cautious because Santa Ana winds oftentimes mix themselves up with some fire or some fire bugs.
Yes, that's the bane of living in a beautiful spot like that is sometimes nature, while she gifts you with so many wonderful things, she also taketh away with a lot of horrible things that happen.
You know how Mother Nature plays a gin with Jack Frost during the winter in Wenatchee.
Yeah, well, it's interesting today up here. By the way, he's Michael Knight, and he is in beautiful Los Angeles, California.
He is New York Vinnie, my pal of many years. We are an audio creative team talking about the world as it is and discussing the world as we would like it to be. And he's in Seattle, Washington.
And together we're Mikey and Vinnie. We talk to you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings at 10:10. And we go on forever, however long we think we can get away with it before the authorities come in and shut us down.
Every once in a while, there's banging on the door. Sometimes on Vinny's end, sometimes here. That door right back there. If there's banging on it, we just let them go.
But I have the two guard dogs here this morning. I mean, Joey and Daisy are keeping an eye on the door, and I pity the fool.
And they're keeping an eye on you because they know that you're the only thing. You are the food man, you're the water man, you're the walk man, you're it.
It's amazing. If you want to get loved by someone, just come home a half hour late when you have to feed the dog, and you will experience the full spectrum of "I love you," "I want to rip your heart out," all in one.
we knew you were coming, but we just didn't think you were coming.
Yeah, we knew you were going to be here. There was no doubt in our minds that you were coming, but good God, did you have to stop on the way to get gas? I mean, couldn't have you just rolled down the hill and gotten here? But they don't have a filter for that kind of thing. They just, if you get back, I had to take a quick trip up north yesterday and got back, I don't know, a half hour, 45 minutes after feeding time. And let me tell you something. It wasn't pretty.
That's not how we run around here. You know when feeding time is, and I know when feeding time is.
You may not like to live on a schedule, but we, as members of the IBOBW, the International Brotherhood of Bow Wows, Chapter 14, we have a schedule, and if that schedule is not adhered to, it could be trouble for you and everybody that looks like you. So
if you want peace in the valley, you just feed me on time.
Right. I'm just putting that out there. That those are the kind of things that happen.
Now here in this house, I don't have to look at the clock or the television or any other timekeeping piece to know what time it is. The cat, Puna the cat, the assertive one, will sit on the table directly in front of you. He finds out where you are. You're looking at the TV right here. He will sit right here on the table and that's it.
It's weird because the dogs and the cats do that, but you can take that meal and you can put it in the cat's dish, and the cat will get around to it when it's ready, right? I mean, sometimes they'll come rushing over. Sometimes it's a few minutes.
Not these cats, damn it, Vinny. I know what you mean, and I've had that with cats.
Oh no, I've had cats that have. You put it in the dish and you put it down and you put the water, and you're looking at them and they're like, yeah, well, okay, yeah, all right.
Is there anything? What else do you got?
Yeah, is this all? To quote the great Peggy Lee, is that all there is? That was Peggy Lee, wasn't it?
It was Peggy Lee, and the answer that you get is no. There's more of this tomorrow. So
yeah,
have a seat and enjoy your food.
So anyway, tomorrow we are expected to have a high temperature of 70 degrees.
Wow.
Highest day of the year here in the Northwest and in Seattle. And I'm hopefully, because it is cold this morning. I went out and there was actually frost. we have a dog walk across the street from the condo, a little area where the dogs can run, and there's a little picnic table in there, and the picnic table was covered with frost this morning
Wow.
at 8 o'clock in the morning when I took the dogs out.
Did you write your name in it? Yo, Vinnie?
You know what? It was so pretty because the way the sun was coming up and hitting it, and it's sparkling. I took a picture of it and I just left it for somebody else's enjoyment. Somebody has left a live Christmas tree in the middle of the table.
Well, we'll water it and it'll be there next year.
Well, I'm going to do what I can. I'm actually going to go to Home Depot this morning and pick up some potting soil and one of those metal little tubs that you can put a dirt and a plant in, and I am going to replant it and put it on top of the table and hope that it survives the whole year.
Oh, it will. If you can't grow a tree, in Washington, you've lost your touch.
Well, I know it'll, and when I mean survive, I mean I don't have any doubt in my mind that it'll, water, if you water it and everything, it'll survive in that respect. What I have to doubt is somebody that'll knock it down or steal it, or the man-made stuff that happens. Nature will take its course out there. Nature will do what it's going to do. But I'm worried about nature's worst creation, which is man, coming along and, just doing the idiot things that we see people do in cases of nature.
Good point, Vinnie. Excellent point, because it speaks to something I was going to raise with you today, and that is human nature, when applied to baseball, does not always give you the best results.
No.
And I know you're very upset about the designated hitter in the National League, and you should be.
Yes.
But here's the latest thing. It's a device that the catcher wears on his wrist and the pitcher wears in his glove or his wrist for pitch calling to prevent sign stealing. The catcher can call for fastball, low and away, change up and tight. He calls the pitch. He calls the location. He calls any other variation that may exist between the pitcher and the catcher, and it cannot be stolen. And it cannot be. You can't take that signal and somehow receive it in the opposite dugout.
Oh, I'm sure that there's a way. I'm sure there's people working on it right now.
So that as soon as they implement it, they'll be the ghost of Billy Martin in the dugout getting the. I would bet you dollars to donuts that, a year from now, we'll be looking at some kind of scandal where, somebody was sitting in a dugout in a clubhouse, or because, again, it's the same principle that we all should be living by. Any data, any information that you put into the air on your cell phone, on will
your
be hacked.
Computer, can be received by somebody that you have no intention of having them receive. And they can somehow translate it.
I would like to ask Earl Weaver and Lou Piniella what they think of this idea of calling pitches with a device.
You know what? That might be a good excuse for me to call Lou and ask him what the heck, what he thinks about it. May just be the good thing. I mean, I called him on his birthday last year, and maybe it's time to give him a holler and see exactly what he does think about this kind of stuff.
Part two of that question to Lou Piniella would be, what do you think of stealing the sign? Is it an honorable profession? Did it ever work to your favor? Did it ever work against you?
Well, I think, Michael, I know that much of a hubbub has been made about stealing signs, but I think if you use the time-honored baseball tradition, which seems each one to be falling day by day, you don't come in with one set of signs, you come in with 5 sets of signs. And you're supposed to have players that are intelligent enough and want it bad enough that they know all 5 sets of signs, so that when, as we see so many times, the third base coach goes to his ear and then starts to do this, that set of signs is completely different from when he wipes his forehead and goes to his chest. And there should be 5 sets of signs that players should know. just as
This is an aspect of this is an aspect of catching that a lot of people can't appreciate. How you call the game, how you
right.
run the game, how you switch the signs. When do you go to the mound and say, okay, here's what we're going to do on this one. This visit is joke. We're going to keep the signs just as they were, but we're going to pretend that we changed them. Now, do you know the new signs? Yes, I do. Have you got it for sure? Right. We didn't change the signs, right? But we think we did, but we want them to think we did.
Right.
And then the next time when I touch when I take my mask off, then we go to the second set of signs. I won't visit you.
And it's a time-honored tradition in baseball. It's one of those things. I mean, the whole thing came out many years ago about the Dodgers and the Giants, and that the Giants were stealing signs from the Dodgers, and that's how Bobby Thompson's home run happened, because he knew what was coming.
Well, what I like about that story is that when they stole the signs, they didn't like what they got. They just went patooey on those Dodger pitchers, those Dodger catchers, the Dodger calls, the Dodger fastball. We hate them all.
Yeah. And
But I never heard that story about Bobby Thompson.
well, yeah, there was a whole. I guess the story was that the Giants knew, because they were stealing the signs. They had somebody, I guess, in center field. Although I think you would have had to have Superman in center field at the Polo Grounds to steal a sign from a catcher.
Because he's closer to Schenectady than he is to home plate.
Yeah, I mean, it's bizarre. I mean, it's 440. If you consider that somebody was in the clubhouse, let's say, at the Polo Grounds, it's 440 feet out straight, and then another 25 feet up the staircase.
It's a long way from home
To home plate. You virtually would have had to have Superman, but I guess they had somebody out there with a telescope or whatever it was, and they were stealing the signs. And again, my whole thing is if, and I got taught this by Mr. Phil Favicchio, who was my coach in the Silk Sox Little League in Astoria.
I like that name. That's a baseball name, Phil.
Yeah, the Silk Sox. And Coach Phil told us, Mr. Phil, as we used to call him, he told us, he says, I got a couple of things, signs, but as 12-year-old kids, we understood that if he went to this shoulder, it was a whole different thing than if he went to this shoulder. So that's another piece of the game that is for whatever reason, because we've dumbed down America so much.
We can't remember which,
where
we
bunch
are.
Of people that can't live without looking at the screens on our cell phones. That now we're going to put electronic devices in helmets and in this and that, and pretty soon they'll have the sticker on the back. The pitcher will have to wear a helmet, and there'll be a transmitter in there where the manager can call or the catcher can call a pitch. I mean, it's ridiculous. To me, it takes away from the game. I guess if you were born in 2000, it doesn't take away from the game, because you don't know half of this stuff.
Or care.
All you care about is that you can pick up your cell phone and that the information is there for you. And
the great thing about knowing that there are signs but you can't break it is because it drives you crazy. Like the Navajo code talkers in World War II.
Right.
There was no way that the Japanese or the Germans could break the Navajo language. They were just speaking a normal language. They weren't doing signals. They were doing straight communication, Navajo to Navajo, and they couldn't break it. Now they knew that it was being done. They knew that information was being passed. What drove them crazy was that they knew all of that, but they couldn't figure out the details, and they never did figure it out. And so that takes away your confidence. If I know that you're sending a signal to your teammates, and I can hear the signal and I can see the signal, I still don't know what it is, that takes away my confidence that I can beat you or compete on that level with you. You're smarter than I am, and it drives me crazy.
Well, yeah, it's well, I mean, again, we now rely on what a machine tells us as opposed to what we as human beings know, feel, and intellectualize. By the way, that I was going to talk about the Mariners opening day, but it seems that now the opening day matchup with the Twins has been postponed until Friday.
Why?
Because of inclement weather, which is a relief actually, because we've seen so many games postponed by COVID that it's nice to actually see one. And it's not even. And here's another place where we are as a society, and I guess this is okay. That they're postponing it not because of inclement weather, but because there's a potential of inclement weather. It's at 10 a.m. this morning. It was or tomorrow, the forecast for tomorrow, April 7th, which would be the opener, would be at the 10 o'clock in the morning, cloudy and 37 degrees with a 66% chance of snow, 15-mile-per-hour winds. The biggest chance it gets, or the coldest it gets, is by 3 p.m. it'll be 37 degrees with a 64% chance of snow in Minneapolis. Now, I got to tell you something. I've sat at plenty of games where it was 37 degrees and a 3/4 chance of snow. I've sat at opening day games where it was snowing. Well, and I just think it's turning us into such a bunch of wusses.
Well, we're going to be opening in. Are we in Miami? Looks like it. No, we're going to be opening at home. Giants will open at home against Miami.
Yeah, probably won't snow there.
No, it might rain, it might blow. There could be fog. Should we cancel the game?
Well, that's it. I mean, I'm sorry, but part of baseball is that you go out and you play the games.
But my widow hands are so cold.
You go out and you play the games, and people in the media make fun of it and so on and so forth. Now, I could see if it was snowing. I mean, actually snowing. But now we're canceling games on potential.
Well, what I like is that that they don't cancel football games under any circumstances. They criticize the fact that they were played after the fact. Well, that was no way to determine who goes to the playoffs. The conditions were deplorable. Well, maybe they were. Maybe they were, but the game's called football, not we need a heated, warm, neutral area.
Well, Mikey, do you think if it was the Ukrainian baseball league that those people would say, oh, it's going to be 37 degrees with a 66% chance of snow, so I don't think I want to go out and fight today?
Yeah, I was going to go gather potatoes because we're starving to death, but it's so chilly that I just thought, well,
just
let's
stay inside and we'll try it tomorrow. Yeah. 15-mile-an-hour winds. I mean, come on, man. I have gas that goes 15 miles an hour. You kidding me?
Are you measuring the speed of a fart? Is that what you're talking about?
No, but I'm estimating. I'm not measuring. I'm estimating. I mean, and again, I guess you'll get a ton of people who will go the other way and say, but I mean, I used to go to opening day every year in New York. I don't think I missed an opening day from 68 until probably a couple of years. I mean, I used to fly back from San Francisco when I moved out to San Francisco to go to opening day. I was there when Tom Seaver came back to New York on opening day.
Oh, my God.
Then when Gary Carter played on opening day and won the game in the bottom of the ninth inning with a home run.
The kid.
I just didn't miss those games because it meant something. Countless A's and Giants and Mariners games on opening day. I went to opening day last year. So the idea that they cancel opening day because it's going to be 37 freaking degrees offends me. In Minnesota.
What do you expect it to be in Minnesota, for crying out tears? Why aren't you playing indoors anyway?
Right, then don't schedule the game in Minnesota. If we're making it on the potential.
Buy a damn roof, enclose your stadium so you can play ball.
Right. If now we're doing things on potential, then then don't schedule any games.
That's the old comment from the coach who talked to his rookie saying, "Your potential is about to get me fired."
I think Mikey would turn it into a country of pussies.
Well, how do the pussies in Seattle feel about their middle linebacker, the man who led the team in tackles from here to any record that you want to make, signing us who apparently was too old, too slow, and too expensive to play football for the Seahawks. So he's just got a $65 million multi-year deal to play for my Los Angeles Rams.
Well, Mikey, I got to tell you, I think that there is a feeling here in Seattle among many people that I have talked to that this is already a lost season. That there's no way that they're going to win without Russell Wilson. That this team needs to have a regime change as well as a quarterback change. And I think there are a lot of people who feel like that. I am not one of them. I think if you go out there and sign a good quarterback and draft right, that you have a chance, draft some defense, which is the easiest position to plug into, that you have a chance. But you can't imagine how many tickets I've seen for sale to Seahawks games this upcoming season.
Well, they'll turn around. All they have to do is win opening day.
Yeah. But there's a lot of people who won't be there to see it because they've sold their tickets.
Well,
it's really kind of, I think it's a drag. I mean, again, I went out to see the Jets. I mean, the Jets still could be the worst team ever to play professional football. But when I got a ticket, I went.
I think the early years of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were pretty awful.
Yeah. But I went to see them because that was my team. And I was in with my team. And I understand. Listen, I understand the whole thing now. Well, yeah, of course you want to see him. Jimmy Scanlon used to sneak you into the ball, into Shea Stadium, so you didn't have to pay. And I'll be the first one to admit that, obviously, as I just did. So I wasn't investing at the time. What was it about? $150 or $200 in tickets. Which seems odd to say today, huh? To go to the game, but it was still the investment of getting on the train and going and everything like that. But that was my team, and win or lose, I was going to go see him. Nowadays, of course, with the money that you have to pay, the parking, the idiots in the stands that you have to deal with, who decide that that's their place to assert themselves to the people around them.
Yeah, I know. I hate that. That's why I don't go to big concerts anymore, because all you need is one idiot standing in front of you, and he will never sit down. And there you go. There's the show ruined.
Yeah, although I'm less likely at a rock and roll. Now, I guess if I'm going to a Joni Mitchell show, yeah, sit down and let's listen to the music. But I don't know if I'm going to see Elton John, if I'm going to see, a punk band or something like that, or even a Springsteen show, I'm more forgiving of people that stand up.
Yes, because, I know what you mean.
Yeah, because I mean that's part of the whole deal. Is that you get moved by the music, But at a sporting event, the guy who sits there and overhears your conversation has to turn around and put his 2 cents in, or the person who's had a few too many beers and now wants everybody in the section to get on board. He thinks he's now a sports talk show host, and he's trying to get everybody to get on board. Or the guy who stands up and starts cursing at the players while you got your kids sitting next to you. And you see it more, I think, in a football game.
Depending on the amount of alcohol
ingested. Then you see, I mean, you don't usually see stuff like that in a baseball game. Once in a while, but for the most part, people are mellow. You know, they stand and they sit with the plays and yada yada yada. You don't
Well,
see
the Seahawks fans can figure out when they play the Rams next year how that exchange went. Was Wagner worthy of another couple of years? You knew he was going to make tackles for somebody. If you put him on the field playing for Seattle, he makes tackles. You put him on the field playing for the Rams, he's going to make tackles. $65 million worth of them.
Well, I think I think they tried with Bobby Wagner. I think they're trying to walk a line of, it happened with Sean Alexander. And Sean Alexander, of course, was a running back. But the science of football, as Kevin Colbert, the fine general manager of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who is leaving, he's quitting, but will be with them. But a wonderful gentleman and a great general manager and somebody who's done real well in Pittsburgh for that team. Drafted some pretty incredible people. Kevin told me once that it's an inexact science. You have to figure out when you've gotten the most out of your player and when it's time to let him go. And 50% of the time you're going to be right. 50% of the time you're going to be wrong. But nobody remembers the times that you were right.
Or you can be both. You can have one good year and never have another good year again after you
Right.
trade him to St. Louis.
And in a salary cap sport where you only have a certain amount of dollars to spend, you have to be right.
You have to create financial room.
Right. You have these pieces where you have to make sure that you get the value that you're getting for that salary slot is maximum. And sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. And it causes you to make tough decisions at times.
Yeah. Oh, it does, most certainly.
And I totally agree with him that yes, and that's the that's the science of it.
And you look at a guy like Wagner and say he's going to make tackles no matter who he plays for. It's not that we're saying Wagner's finished. What we're saying is we, the Seahawks, are finished paying him.
Right.
We need to do something else. And what we're going to do is put a rookie in there.
Well, and I think they feel, I don't know what they feel. I don't talk to John Schneider on a daily basis, so I'm not as plugged in as I was in Pittsburgh or before I left here. But I think that their philosophy may be we have, we don't have a quarterback anymore, or, the one we want. We may not be, now they'll never tell us to the fans, because the fans' expectation is that you're going to compete for the Super Bowl every year. But this Seahawk team may not be a competitor for the Super Bowl for a couple of years.
Will it even be a playoff team next year?
In their division, which I think now is the toughest division in football, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know that they're going to be. And I think the best thing that can happen to the Seahawks right now is that the Mariners do well.
Yeah, take your mind off of them for a while.
Because it'll put them under the radar a bit. And people will be so excited about the Mariners, which I absolutely predict will go to the playoffs this year, the Mariners.
Have you been reading Dan Rayleigh's comments recently about the new recruits at UW for the Huskies?
No, not really.
Well, the most fascinating part of it is the Huskies had a difficult year last year, and they had a difficult coach year as well. Now the new coach is here.
You're all around for
the new coach is here, and what Rayleigh is documenting is that the coaches are taking a look at the players that were there that were used or underutilized or misutilized or poorly utilized or sat the bench and saying, we think that you have a chance at another position. We look at your skills, your size, your performance, and we think you could switch from offense to defense or the other way around. we think because of your size and we have too many quarterbacks, what would you consider switching to running back? They're taking the people that they have, they're utilizing their experience and what the kid did last year and saying, where can this person play? We're not going to cut him. Why should we cut him if we can move him to defense? Why should we cut him if we can send him to the running back crew? And often in professional sports, they don't make those decisions like that. College sports, they have more room, more time, and more forgiveness.
Right.
But perhaps they should. Baseball never ever turns a shortstop into a left fielder permanently. They just don't do it. They could. They
do, Mikey. I mean, how many infielders or outfielders or catchers have been turned into first basemen? I mean, later in their careers.
That's true, and that's tough to switch positions for some people.
Yeah,
but other people throughout their whole career play third, first, and left field.
You right. They tried to get Mike Piazza out from behind the plate.
Yeah,
for a gazillion years because they thought it would. And I guess maybe the most famous example I can think of, well, two. I mean, certainly Joe Torre was one, who was a third baseman and was a catcher, then became a third baseman and then a first baseman.
You won't find that happening. You won't find many catchers moving to third. That's a skill position.
And you had Dale Murphy, also from the Braves, who was a catcher at the start of his career and became an outfielder.
And Yogi Berra could play anywhere you put him on the field, including
there were guys. Yeah, there's still some guys in the league who, and Yogi was probably the most famous of them, who you could stick them anywhere. But Yogi was primarily a catcher. If he was at first base, it was considered a day of rest for Yogi.
Right.
Where these guys that I just talked about, Torre and Murphy and several others, they tried to do it with Lee Mazzilli too. I remember Lee was was a center fielder, and they got the idea to switch him to first base because they thought it would prolong his career. And Lee didn't exactly have the best track to the ball. Lee.
That wasn't his fault. The ball didn't like him. The ball would not come to him.
Many times in Lee's career, you would see him start to head one way and then have to change direction.
He changed his mind. He changed his mind on that.
I have an overactive uvula.
You have to admire a man willing to change his mind.
Yeah, in front of 55,000 people. Yes, I think it's a charming thing.
It can be embarrassing, but it needs to be done.
Needs to be done. So baseball, I think, is a sport that lends itself much more to that change. You see it, of position. But football, you're right. I mean, there's not a lot of people that you see as, Deion Sanders, I guess, is one shining example of somebody who could play both ways.
Right.
Defense and offense, and be a cornerback and a wide receiver at the same time. That's one that immediately comes to mind. There's been others, but you don't see too many running backs.
No.
That decide to change into free safeties or even change positions on the offense. Tight ends, I guess, do it from time to time as well.
If there's because it's turned into such a skilled position. You are a big wide receiver, but you can block.
Right.
And you can do the end, and you can do the end around. You can move.
Right. And Bill Walsh was the one who pioneered that with the tight ends.
Every time Bill Walsh beat you, he beat you with tight end play, especially in the red zone.
It was something to watch because nobody utilized tight ends.
No.
As Bill Walsh had up until that point. I mean, it was basically a blocking position. And Walsh said, well, wait a minute. We can use these guys to not only to block, but to carry the ball for us and catch the ball or do a multitude of other things. And it revolutionized and pretty much marched him to his first Super Bowl.
Yep. I think Dan Rayleigh's point with the Huskies and making utilization changes is they look at a guy and say, you're 6'8", 330 pounds. Why are you playing guard? You should be a defensive tackle. Who's going to get around you? I mean, who the hell can get around you for that matter?
Right.
Let's work on his footwork, his speed. Let's let him lose 20 pounds. And I think at 6'8", 310, you might be skinnier and more adept at moving the way a left tackle has to protect the quarterback.
Well, I think, yeah, I think that's something that's, Michael, I've always, and I know, listen, I have this fantasized idea of college football as rah-rah, sis, boom, bon. I know long ago it stopped being that, started being a business. But if you take into consideration the fact that people should go to college to learn their craft, whatever that craft might be, whether it be an engineer, whether it be a map maker, whatever it is, then as a college football player, you should go to college not just to win games, but to learn the craft of what you want to be.
Right.
And there should be coaches at that level and teachers at that level who are willing to say to you, you're not a quarterback. You're a running back, or you're not a tight end. You're a defensive, and we're gonna change you. We're going to, but the pressure to win now at college, the pressure to win in high school now, is so much that coaches don't have time for that anymore because they're trying to save their jobs.
That's all they can do to
win 10 games or 9 games is not enough for some schools.
Yeah, that's all they can do to prepare for next week.
So, listen, Rayleigh's a great writer. He covers that program like nobody else has. But that program, and Rayleigh pointed it out many times, was in such a mess last year.
Oh boy. Well, and this is a continuation of how we're going to fix the mess.
Right.
Do we cut everybody, or do we say these kids have a lot of talent or they wouldn't be here? No, they weren't a winning team last year, but what can they do? What are their skill sets? You can't let a kid who's 6'8" get away from you. You just can't do it.
Right.
You've got to find a place for him to play.
Well, you got to find, it's like the best managers in the world. I'm talking about business managers, the best people in the world who run successful companies, who run things right, will tell you. And I always remember the guy who taught me this was our mutual friend and our former boss, Bruce Blevins.
Right. He was my mentor too.
Yeah. Who always taught me and told me and said to me that the way you become a successful manager is to play your strengths. See what your individuals have that makes them the strongest and utilize that, encourage that, nurture that.
Right.
But again, sometimes we lose sight of that, especially in sports where, again, the pressure is not to educate somebody in how to perform their position correctly, or how to find what position works for them the best. But we have to win this week or else coach is going to lose his job.
And look at the teams that have to win every week because they're in the top 5. And if you lose a game, any game, under any circumstances, for any reason, you're out of the race for the national championship.
Well, that's because it's a pro sport, Michael. And finally,
that's right.
Finally, we are coming to the admission, to the grips that college sports is just another league with teams that wear the names of the jerseys with the names of colleges on them. That the teams have nothing to do, for the most part, with the general consensus of the campus. They eat separately. They train separately. They're just a money-making device for the campus. It's always been my biggest knock on college sports is it touches a psychological thing in people that they want to stay connected to their college days.
Yeah.
And so college sports is a way for people to exploit that, because you can be 65 years old and 100 pounds overweight, but you can find a jersey that fits you and wear it on a Saturday, and you feel like you're back at the frat house.
Yep. Yeah, that's what it's about for a fan, but that's not what it's about for the team.
No,
it's
no,
not
but
that
I'm
way at
talking
all.
about
Yeah.
that's where the money comes from.
Oh yeah. It come and the fact that you think Bama is finished with football? No, every year it's a realization that wonderful things could be happening. Now maybe Notre Dame's finished; they just don't think they are, so they're going to put as much effort into it as they can.
It's Michael, listen, sports in this country is an addiction.
And it is.
It may be the biggest addiction in this country.
And we have a lot of talent here to play these games and to pursue these physical cultural ends of the to the ends of the earth. We will chase the championship.
Yeah,
Football,
we have a lot
baseball,
of talent.
whatever,
We have
basketball.
a lot of talent. A lot of people who want to live vicariously through that talent, and that's the combination that produces the income.
Now, you think the Mariners are going to have a good year, and they could have a good year. I hope they do have a good year. But take a look at a team that should have had a good year, but didn't. What do you do with them? And I bring up the Los Angeles Lakers as an example. Yesterday was an important day for the Lakers because it was the day that they found out, although they saw it coming, that they would not be going to the NBA playoffs. The Lakers don't make the playoffs. Think of the names on that team. Think of the money that's being spent on the team. Think of the marketing. Think of the fan base. Think of the television and all the cable deals that have been made. And the guys can't make it to the playoffs. They're no better than the lowly teams of the East. They're no better than Charlotte. They're no better than New Orleans.
It's where fantasy meets up with reality.
In fact, they lost to the Pelicans, a very important game. And they lost to the Pellies. The Pelicans said, not only are we going to beat you, we're going to knock you right out of the playoffs. And I understand you're a famous basketball player, LeBron something. I didn't get the name. Who are you guys?
LeBron jerseys for half price at the Nike outlet yesterday.
Wow. So how do you explain it? How do you explain the psychology of all that talent gathering, all the money being spent, and then nothing coming from it?
Okay, in 1965, let's in 1962, I explained it that, well, son, we went down there and we saw some good basketball, and wait till next year.
You're right.
In 1972, I explained it that, well, sometimes teams have a bad year, and they'll be back next year because they got Kareem and they got Wilt Chamberlain, they got this guy and that guy and boom, 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 and Bill Walton, and they got all these people. In 1982, I explained it that the league is just all coked out, man. Everybody's on coke. What do you expect? Look, even the Sonics won last year. In 1992, I explained it that Pat Riley is a little off this year, and he's going to go and get his hair follicles looked at, and he'll be back next year. In 19.
Then when you get Kobe and Shaq on the same team, get out of the way.
Right, and in 2002, I explained it that, well, everybody's still reeling from September 11th. In 2012, I explained it that, hey, we won last year. What do you want?
Yeah.
Every year. And in 2022, there's no explanation for it.
Well, the Bus family is not, the old man died.
Right. The people that are running the team now aren't the people that ran the team.
That's right.
Several years ago. So everything's different. But we'll be in it next year. We'll make changes this year. We'll see what went wrong. We'll get on our computers and talk to our people that are running the team, our scouts and general managers, everybody. We'll find out what happened and we'll fix it.
And we'll get rid of Russell Westbrook. He'll go to somebody. He'll go to Portland and be a star.
Right. And I think that's the history of how you explain the Lakers not being in the playoffs. And I guess you have several years where you can tuck something in there. Oh, Kobe died last year, so we're all still
Right.
reeling, or this or that. The other thing, but every team has an off year.
It's
Every
true.
every team, and it's something that we don't accept, and it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where we don't allow teams to have. You can't fail. One of my favorite shows is a show called Highway Through Hell. It's about a Canadian tow truck company up in BC, in Hope, BC. This guy Jamie Davis, and the different tow truck companies, and what happens on this highway called the Coquihalla.
It's a tough road, huh?
Tough road. It's just a hard road in the winter. And the tagline of the show is "Closure is not an option," right? But every show shows you the guys at Jamie Davis Towing, or whatever towing company they happen to be highlighting, closing down the highway. So closure is an option. You got to close the highway down. It's the stupidest tagline for a show. Closure is not an option, but yet they're always closing down the Coquihalla. So, failure is not an option for the Lakers, but yet
look,
they're going to fail. They're going to have teams. Even the Yankees had, of the 20s and the 30s and the 50s. I mean, what did people say? What did Yankee fans say in 1957 and 58 when, the Brewers, the Braves won because they had that young phenom, Henry Aaron, that they brought in from the Negro Leagues.
And they had a talented team.
And they had Warren Spahn, and they had Johnny Sane, and they had
Eddie Matthews.
These great.
Was Matthews on the team?
I think Eddie Matthews was there. I mean, they had a great team.
Del Crandall.
Yeah, they had a great, but the Yankees lost. Yankees had team maybe ever to take the field.
I think Milwaukee, the Braves had Warren Spahn in those years too.
Yeah, that's that Warren. It was Spahn and Sane and Pray for Rain.
Because we only got two guys.
Yeah, so teams, no matter how good they are, fail at times. That's how, again, that's how when you look at all of these great dynasty teams, most of them have a year or two in there
where they stink.
An injury, people, the 49ers in the 80s. They were a dynasty, but yet they had, 82 and 83 or I forget the couple of years that they were all coked out.
It's hard to breathe when you're full of cocaine.
Yeah. So, teams, even the greatest teams, are going to fail from time to time. And I've always looked at, okay, how do you bounce back?
Well, the type of team I'm talking about is one that probably drives you crazy, and that is, look at the Dodgers. They put together with money an infield, an outfield, a pitching staff.
Yeah.
What they've got in terms of magic, the ability to play together, the ability to come back when you're down 5 runs in the 7th inning, the ability to find a couple of kids that fill in the gaps, where you find that 5th pitcher who's hot in the rotation. Those kind of magical things don't happen when you construct a lineup. That's why I think the Dodgers, of course, are going to lose again this year, because they did exactly what they've been doing for the last 4 years. They put together a team. They have, on paper, success that nobody can match.
Right.
And then it's time to put away the paper and to actually take the field. And that's it may work for the Dodgers this year. I wish them no wins whatsoever. I wish them no victories for the entire season. But it's more likely for that to be a success than it is for what the Lakers did. where they constructed the team. They had the right amount of stars. They had the right amount of backup. They had what they thought was a strong bench. They had a new coach. They had the backup of the ownership and management, and the fans love them, and nothing worked.
Well, I mean, maybe the worst example of that is the the 90s Mets. I mean, they had all of these studs on that team. You know, Bobby Bonilla. I mean, they got a
I knew
ton
you
of,
were going to say that.
yeah.
I
I
knew
mean,
you were
but they
going to
had a
start.
ton of great players, but it didn't mesh. It didn't come together. It's more than just paper, man.
There's some magic that has to be there.
Yeah, there's a feeling that we're all in this together. I mean, in successful clubhouses that I've seen, there was always a feeling of we're in this together. Where there's a certain love that we're not just here to collect paychecks,
Yeah.
but we're here because we love doing what we're doing, and we love the people that we're doing it with. Or I've seen teams where they hated the people they were doing it for,
Yes.
and that brought them together. They hated. I mean, you look at the Yankees in the 50s. They hated George Weiss. They hated some of the people that owned the team. They hated those people, but they all came together.
You remember the swinging A's when they were going to the World Series every year?
Yeah, the 70s, the 70, 70, what was it, 71, 72, 73, 74.
And they come to town and fight, but they fight each other.
Right. Yankees were the same way. You had an owner that was paying people more, 10 times what they were really worth, but was a real pain in the ass, and yet they hated him.
Yeah.
They hated what he did to Billy. They hated what he did to the team. They hated the media circus. So what did they do? They manifested their hate in superior play. They played their asses off. Some people will tell you that that's how you're supposed to do it.
And that's one way to gel. You know what cures all sorts of problems, and we've heard this in every sport: winning. Just win, baby.
Then you got the opposite. You got Bob Kraft up in New England.
Yeah.
Who is probably one of the most benevolent owners. I mean, I think he's bought every player on his team a hooker at one point or another, or at least a massage.
He buys hookers for the hookers.
Yeah, he gets hookers for the hookers, so everybody's happy. But guys go out and play for him. Belichick goes out there. Belichick's the honorariest son of a gun you'll meet to most people, but his players will play for him. Jay Buhner once told me that I asked him once, why is this team? I think it was 2001, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been. Why is this team so good? He says he pointed to Lou's office, and he said because there isn't a guy in this clubhouse that won't jump through a ring of fire for that guy. He says, there's nobody in this clubhouse that hates that guy. We all go out and we play for him. And it was a great explanation.
There's always some reason for championship teams.
And it was really evident in 2000 and 2002, I guess it was, or through whenever Jeffrey Cirillo came over. And was a guy who really didn't care about Lou Piniella or jumping through hoops for him and this or that and the other thing. And it brought the entire clubhouse down.
Yep.
And then you brought in a rookie manager, Bob Melvin, who was, who nobody really appreciated or liked.
How weird.
And yeah, because it was his first managing job. He was just a year maybe removed from being a player or two. And the whole vibe changed. And they haven't won anything since. And they've had some great teams. They've had some 90-win teams. But they also had teams that spent $100 million to lose 100 games.
And didn't even steal the signs of the other team.
Didn't know how to steal the signs. Could care less. So, before we go, we're up against it here. A couple of things that I wanted to mention.
Yes.
You got to give some credit to the guy, Mikey. And I know this is the kind of guy that I think you're going to love. There's a guy who figured out how to make some money. He went out and he got 90 COVID shots and the attendant vaccine cards that goes along with them to sell the vaccine cards to people.
Just the cards.
Just the cards.
Is that Jared Kushner by any chance?
Yeah, you got to give people like that credit. They're always thinking, right? He gets the Ralph Cramden Award of the month.
That guy's got some protection. He got 90 shots.
He could, two guys from COVIDville could take him on each arm and stick themselves right up his nostrils, and he'd just laugh at them. He's protected.
Sir, the two men from COVIDville are here again. They say they just want to talk.
Send them in.
Send them
in. Tell them to light up a cigar and sit down. I'll be right in. I'm just finishing up my business. And the other thing I wanted to bring up is we lost Bobby Rydell the other day.
Yeah. How old was he?
Boy, I want to say
must be in his 80s.
78, something like that, early 80s. Let me see if I can quickly come up with that. Anyway, a lot of people of this generation don't know much about Bobby Rydell, but he came from a time 79
years old.
79. But Bobby Rydell came from a time in the music business between doo-wop and the Beatles.
It was a quiet time.
Yeah, there was a few years in there where really everybody was trying to be Elvis. Elvis had left the building to go do movies, so he wasn't putting out great records. He was putting out movies. And you had a guy named Bob Marcucci. I don't know if that name is familiar to you, but Bob Marcucci was a guy in Philadelphia. And he said, we gotta find some Elvises. We need to get some Elvises out there.
I need a Teen Idol because Teen Idol sell records.
Right. So he got Bobby Rydell, he got Fabian, he got Len Berry from the Dovells. And
they still do it today, but it's Miley Cyrus instead.
Right. And he had a factory going. Fabian was another one of them, Bobby Rydell, and he created this this industry of cranking out teen idols. It wasn't, and really it was the first time that there was a holistic marketing of rock and roll personalities. It wasn't just that they put out a hit record, but there was the record, there was the concerts, there was the teen magazines, there was the lunch boxes.
Because there was no video, so that was how you marketed your kid.
So that's what was marketed, and these guys were huge in 1959, 60, 61, 62, 63.
Bobby Rydell, Bobby Darin.
Yeah, Del Shannon probably could be put, although Del was a little bit more of a harder edge.
Yeah, right.
Act, but there was these guys. There's a great movie.
Tommy Sands.
Yeah, Tommy Sands. There was just this group of teen idols. And if you picked up a 16 magazine of the day, you would usually see the battle between, Fabian or Bobby Rydell, or, and most of these guys are out of Philly or Southern New Jersey. Most of them were Italian.
Yep.
And most of them had a profound influence and effect on women. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite stories about one of these guys is I can't remember. It might have been Todd Rundgren that I was going to see, who oddly enough was from Philly.
Yeah.
And I was standing with, I don't know if you remember, I'm sure you're probably going to remember the name Jude Heller
Oh, yes.
from Bill
Bill
Graham.
Graham's organization. Yes.
And so her and I were sitting outside of the San Francisco, I don't know, that building on 6th and whatever it is there, where they used to hold concerts inside the Trade Mart or whatever it is. And they had, they used to have concerts there. Todd Rundgren was there that night, and Jude Heller and I were sitting outside. And Fabian had actually been to our station at KKCY earlier in the day. I think Norman Davis might have interviewed him, or Freddie Gallardo. And Jude is from Philadelphia. And I'll never forget this. I had talked to Fabian while we were in the building in the station, and I'm sitting there with Jude, and Fabian comes walking up because I guess he's going to see Todd Rundgren.
Yeah.
And Fabian comes over, and he recognizes me, and he comes over. I said, "Oh, hey, Fabian, how are you?" Shakes my hand, and I go to, I say, "Jude, I want you to meet my friend Fabian." And she looks, and she
swoons,
and her knees got weak. And now this is a woman who worked for Bill Graham. This is a woman who had met over the course of her career
everybody.
There wasn't anybody who was around that she had met or booked or done something for or handled the advertising for. If there was anybody who could be jaded, you would expect to just go, "Oh, hi." And I thought she was going to collapse. I actually put my arm around her.
Fabian's used to that. Fabian's seen that many times.
And the rest of the night, she was, I met Fabian. Oh my God, I met Fabian. It was one of the most awesome things I'd ever seen in my life.
That's one aspect of the music business that hasn't changed. The Kristen, my wife, mentioned the night of the Grammys. This 19-year-old girl who's, I can't remember her name right now. She won 3 or 4 Grammys. She's the heartthrob, and she's singing these incredibly sad, powerful, angry songs about, "I can't believe that we're in high school and you think you're better off without me. I know I only broke up with you to see what would happen. Now I see that you think it's fine to be without me." A completely high school point of view. Well, Bobby Rydell sang from a high school point of view. It wasn't an extraordinary romance. It was a high school romance. It wasn't a high school successful romance. It was, they were going to break up, and you could tell already in the song there were problems.
Right.
But that hasn't changed. That hasn't changed at all. The music has changed, the type of song, the construction, the production, but the message is
that core feeling of
you're in high school and you're miserable.
Yeah,
buy my record.
Feeling of everything is going off at the same time in your body.
Yeah.
It's this explosion that's going on, and people have made millions of dollars putting their finger on it.
Yep.
And capturing it. So, Bobby obviously had hits with Wildwood Days and so many other hits. I saw him. Well, I've seen him a bunch of times. I saw him as the angel in Greece. Ooh. He was the angel in the original, the angel that comes down. And I think he sings Beauty School Dropout. Fabian had the part. Bobby Rydell had the part. A bunch of teen idols had the part. When I saw Grease in the original Broadway production back in the 70s, he was the angel that came down.
And to show you how harsh the music business can be, all those guys, Jimmy Clanton, Fabian, Bobby Sands, all the male high school crooners of the day on all the local, regional rock and roll labels of the day were swept aside in 1 month.
Yep. Couldn't buy it
when the Beatles came, because instead of saying, okay, the Beatles are right, but we got a new record, we'll chase the Beatles. Nope, because here comes the Stones, here comes the Yardbirds, here come the Who, here comes all the female singers from England who took all the female hits away from the girls singing in the United States.
Right. All of a sudden, the girl groups became the Cilla Blacks and so on and so forth.
Sandy Shaw, yeah.
Sandy Shaw's. That's with 2 E's, by the way.
And they swept away, and their careers were finished until that kid from Pittsburgh started putting them back on PBS.
Yeah. But if you want to see a great movie about the guy who was the Idolmaker, was the guy who put these people on the map, who had everything. Watch a movie called The Idolmaker. That was put out in 1980. Stars Ray Sharkey as the guy who was, loosely based on Marcucci. Peter Gallagher is in it as one of the teen idols. Joe Pantoliano is in it as his writing partner, is Marcucci, or Vinnie. His name is Vinnie Vicari, as his writing partner. I think Sharkey was nominated, if I'm not mistaken, got an Academy Award nomination for the role. But it's probably somewhere on your on demand or streaming or cable. But it's probably my favorite rock and roll movie.
Remember that line from Joni Mitchell's song, stoking the hit making potential of the modern song. He's stoking the hit making potential of the modern song. That's not quite right, but that's close.
Yeah.
It was a song about David Geffen.
Yeah. Well, this guy was
stoking the star-making machinery of a popular song.
Yeah, it's well worth 2 hours of your time to watch this movie, maybe less than that. And really, again, it'll not only entertain you, and the music from the soundtrack is great. Matter of fact, the soundtrack, I think Nino Tempo wrote a bunch of songs for it.
Cool.
Trying to think of who else. And the amazing thing about the movie, and I didn't know this until a couple of years ago, I just thought that everybody's Tova Felcher is in it too. I thought everybody lip synced their songs, but Peter Gallagher actually sang his songs.
Wow, good for him.
And I don't know if Peter Gallagher, probably most recently from Law and Order SVU, who played the captain after Dan Florek left, or maybe he played the chief of D's, I forget. But if you want a little piece of rock and roll history, you want to see something that'll entertain you, Olympia Dukakis is in it too.
Whoa.
Olympia Dukakis plays Richard Bright.
And what's it called? Idolmaker?
The Idolmaker.
Okay.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's Taylor Hackford's first movie. The director, Taylor Hackford. So, rest in peace, Bobby Rydell. I still think that you have the best version of Volare ever put out. I mean, you want to talk about, I'm sure you're familiar with it. You've heard it. Just a swinging version. I mean, it's there's no better version of Volare that you'll ever hear in Italian or English than Bobby Rydell's. It just the arrangement, the session. It's one of those records where you wish you would have been in the studio when they were making the record. There's probably 10 records you could think of and say, boy, I wish I was there when they were doing this. I would have loved to have seen it.
It's funny how the teenagers of Ukraine are going to be one of the strange group of people who didn't have hit songs, who didn't have local radio, who didn't have downloads that they were a part of. It wasn't part of their life. They didn't have it. Other kids did. Even kids in Russia had hit records. They're not in Ukraine.
They've got more. They've got something else, though.
They've got something else.
But they have. They're learning a hard lesson that hopefully will carry them through the toughest times they'll ever face in their lives. And I can't imagine tough times being any tougher than they are now.
Well, how can you imagine it? You probably have to say to yourself somewhere along the line, the Russians aren't going to keep killing us on the street. That's going to stop. That can't continue. That's not what we expect. It's not what we dreamed of. It's not what we can imagine. So it's going to have to stop. And you would think that that would be true. You'd think that the science and imagination and the clock would eventually run out on that type of behavior. But it appears that that was the plan all along. It appears that the type of savagery that we're seeing is the plan. Yeah. Is the way that they were taught, the way that they were trained, the way that the orders that they're given, and they're willing to do it.
That's the thing that I guess bothers me the most. That's the thing that's the toughest for me to reconcile, is why these animals, and really at this point, I don't know if you saw the footage this morning of the guy on the bicycle.
Yep, I did.
How
you kill a guy on a bicycle with a tank.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense to anybody?
Yeah. What do you have inside of you that makes you do something like that? What horrible thing were you born with, or did you learn, or did somebody step on you so hard that you could look down a gun sight with a huge, shell the size of your arm and rip somebody apart with it who is doing nothing but walking their bicycle?
The Nazis had groups called Einsatzgruppen. They're the ones who would come into town and shoot all the professors, shoot the mayor, shoot the cops, shoot the men of fighting age. Just line them up right in the middle of town and shoot them. And over a period of time, it became hard to motivate those guys because they started losing it. The guys who were doing the shooting started losing their minds, started losing their grip on reality. They became unresponsive in some cases. When's that going to catch on with the Russians? What's stopping them from coming to the realization that they have crossed the line? They've crossed the line of humanity. They're breaking laws that were never written because no one thought that they had to write these laws.
Yeah. Very good point.
And how long can they continue to do that without losing their minds?
Not for long, I hope, Michael. Not for long. Just when you look at it and you think that it can't get any worse.
It gets worse.
It gets worse. Luckily, this morning I saw a piece that was done on CNN about a businessman, I think he was in Cleveland, who, as soon as the war started, got on a plane and went over to Poland and dedicated himself to helping the Ukrainian army find bulletproof vests. And his two children, who I'm thinking are probably in their 20s, early 20s, started a charity back here to fund the father's and mother's efforts to help equip not offensive weapons, but things that will save people's lives.
Right. Defensive weapons.
Weapons that may keep them alive. Well, if you get hit with a tank shell, I doubt a bulletproof vest is going to help you.
Not going to help.
And you look toward that small drop of humanity in the sea of what's happening, and I guess at some points you say to yourself, well, I got to look at that and say that will help me overcome and get past the other stuff that's going on. But as we talked about on Monday, it's hard to reconcile what's going on, man. It's hard to look at that and say there's a God in heaven.
And it's hard not to see that if Putin will give orders and the commanders will issue those orders to do these terrible things, that he has within his abilities as an evil leader, the ability to use tactical nuclear weapons as well.
Yeah. You know, that's the scary thing, is if the
I
army
wouldn't have
stops
thought so.
fighting.
I didn't think so at the beginning of the war, but I think so now.
Yeah, I think that if the army stops fighting for him, he just goes to his plan B, which is to just detonate. And I don't think that he'll just detonate it in New York. I mean, in Ukraine. I think that he's got a plan to detonate it in a place like London, or a place like New York or Los Angeles, God forbid, or any place. Not just, if he's going to go out. He doesn't seem to me to be the kind of guy who's going to do a Hitler, where he just, goes into the bunker and says, well, I tried and I failed. Goodbye, everybody.
No, he's not going to. He'll be the last one down.
Yeah, he's going to try to. He's going to try to take a lot of people with him. So
maybe we'll have something better to talk about on our Freaky Fractious Friday show.
We will, Michael. You know why?
Why?
Because Tiger Woods is in the Masters.
I know I should care, and I'm glad that he's healing, but I don't care.
I care to a point of I'd like to see him win one more. I mean,
I'd like to see him win well and maybe be able to walk the 4 miles.
Yeah. I like for all the people who go through horrific injuries and have to come back from them. I think that the best thing that he can do right now for humanity really is to put himself out as an example of, if you get, and I'm coming from somebody who's had to rehab from a serious injury, you look at people like that and you take something from that.
I like to quote Bob Dylan on these matters. He says, of course you can come back. You just can't come back all the way.
Yeah. Well, Michael, he doesn't have to come back all the way. All he's got to do is go walk. And show up.
With what he's learned and with what veteran athletes know about the game that we don't know, that we'll never know, it makes up for the difference when you can't get back all the way. You come back, you can play, you can compete, and then your smarts,
right,
and your akamai, Hawaiian word for he's smart. Well, capiche, right? He understands.
He just he has to not let his ego get in the way.
Well, that's the story for us all.
Yeah. If he can not let his ego get in the way, and I know it's a term that's always used, but yet is very true. If he can play within himself, because here it does apply.
Right.
He doesn't. It's not. He probably doesn't have as much power, as much distance, as much strength as many of the other people he will be on the golf course with. But there's probably not a lot of people out there that can match his smarts, can match his experience, can match his intimate knowledge of the course and how to play what, where, which way to hit a ball, all that kind of stuff.
I remember playing playing golf in Marin one day. We were in a foursome at this club. And one of the old guys that was going to play with us was the father of some people that I went to high school with, Dr. Weckel. And one of the guys said, don't bet him on anything. Do not get involved financially. He will take all your money. And I understood it, because he said, he doesn't do anything spectacular. He's an old man. He's not going to do anything spectacular, except one thing. He's going to hit it straight, and you're not. And that's all it took.
Yep.
That's all it takes to win. Tiger, can you hit it straight? Can I hit it straight? Watch me. Well, the kid that wants to beat Tiger, is he going to hit it straight every time? Chances are the answer is no. Nobody hits it straight every time in the game of golf. But the people who hit it straight the most, They can beat you every day. They can beat you today and they'll beat you again tomorrow. How? He hit it straight.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like his short game. Tiger can hit the hell out of the ball, but where does he beat most of his people? In the short game, right? He's got maybe. I mean, I'm not the smartest golf person in the world, but from what I've seen and what people who know a lot about golf, more than I'll never know, is that's where he beats you. His short game is the best, maybe, of anybody who's ever picked up a golf club.
And you are, the chances are you're going to make a mistake somewhere along the line, and he ain't.
Yep. And that's what makes him better than you.
Yeah. So I wish him luck, but it's golf, so I just don't care.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, I've always said to myself that please, if I die in the chair on a Sunday afternoon, the first thing you should do is not call the ambulance, not call the police, not give me CPR. If I'm watching golf, please change the channel.
Yeah, I don't want anyone. I don't want anyone to know.
I don't want anyone to know that I was sitting there watching golf. Put it on Spanish movies. I don't care.
I'll put it on the weekend reruns of the Dead Files on the History Channel.
No problem. All right, man. I will see you on Friday if the Lord's will and the creek don't rise, pal.
Well, the Lord, tell him to get to work, will you?
I think he's busy trying to figure out what's going on in Ukraine. I don't think he's doing a good job of it, to tell you the truth.
The devil is winning that one, so tell him to get busy.
Well, it would help out over in Ukraine. A lot of peace, a lot of love, and a lot tankfuls of Manischewitz.
Man, do we need that wine. See you Friday, Vinnie.
See you Friday, Mikey. Take care. Thank you all out there for listening. We'll see you on Friday. Bye-bye.